All right, click the links to join the channel, become a member here over, subscribe. So I got a mailbox. I want to mail you some comics. Thanks to Vegan for the Green Arrow. I read those last night. Very cool. So what this says is the Loki executive producer fires back Scorsese's criticism that comic book movies pose a threat to culture. I challenge anyone watching to say this series is not cinematic, referring to all that Marvel, She-Hulk, Loki, and probably the rest. Or, you know, you can pretty much include anything from Disney. So I will say, like, the most successful Disney thing I think was the first few Pirates of the Caribbean. It really feels like they had hit on something kind of magical there with Johnny Depp, and they had something, and they just like, I don't know, Johnny Depp, we can't possibly work with him because Amber Heard accused him of some nonsense. Like that seemed like that was a really strong path to go down, was the Pirates theme. Like you could have had a lot of fun with that. And so what are you doing now? Oh, well, we have Indiana Jones. Yeah, you ruined it. Oh, we got Marvel. You're ruining it. You've had like a half a dozen Marvel bombs, which should be inconceivable. What about Star Wars? Oh, yeah, that's just about it. You had a bomb in Solo? Yeah. So wait, you're telling me you own the Star Wars name and you had something that lost money? Yeah. Yeah, we are. What about the streaming? I'm sure the streaming Star Wars is doing well. Not so well. Why is that? Disney, where's Gina Carano? Everyone likes her. Yeah, we fired her very publicly and tried to humiliate her. Oh, who's running Disney? Bunch of freaking weirdos. So the short version of this is Scorsese and his movies mostly, and the Disney movies are almost all crap, and both of them are lying to themselves because they're in an echo chamber. They're just in their own version of their own little safe space. So the claim was comic book movies are not cinema, which no doubt of who is arguing that they are. Hey, Iron Man was a lot of fun. The original one, yeah, it was with Robert Downey Jr. It was a fun movie, but nobody's saying that anything of those kind of movies is anything other than just a fun popcorn movie. The goal is to make a simple movie and just do the best job you can with it, so people feel like they got their entertainment out of it. And when you've got control of Marvel and DC and you're incapable of even doing that, like how did Ant-Man 3 do? It's like, oh, there was a lecture from this Antifa girl, took like 5 minutes. Ah, yeah. Oh, and then they race swap one of the that's why'd you do that? What are you, some kind of istophobe? Well, that's not really answering the question. Why'd you change? That's not what people signed up for. They want to see the original storyline, and they don't want to be lectured to about how stupid San Francisco, Californian policies are. That doesn't make any sense. Californians voted for all of this. None of this makes sense. It's just, oh, we hate the cops, and we're going to put this in the show. But it's California. It's none of that. Anyway, so no, the comic book movies are not cinema. They're saying they're lowbrow crap. Yes, of course they are, but implying that his movies are somehow not garbage, that he's making high art, you are getting high on your own supply if you think that. He's saying the Marvel crap is degrading American culture. Yes, but that's almost all of Hollywood since almost forever. It's been anti-white globalist propaganda for a long time, and when you go down the rabbit hole and you start looking back at earlier movies, you can go decade by decade and you start to see more and more of this propaganda, and you're not projecting because you can objectively point it out. It's the more you look at Hollywood, you realize, oh, it kind of feels like it's been a psyop since like the 60s is when they kind of started to take off the mask, at least. And even you go back to the 40s and 50s and look at war movies, and they'll insert a little bit of propaganda that is so glaringly, stupidly, like painfully obvious. There's some John Wayne movie I saw a couple years ago. I remember they had a little bit of propaganda in there. Like, whoa, this would have been obvious for the time. I mean, just people would be groaning and rolling their eyes in the audience. Anyway, I can prove this brutal truth about propaganda right now very carefully for YouTube. Take a list of movies by decade, draw a correlation chart that shows ethnicity and perceived ethnicity and protagonist versus antagonist. Who are they trying to focus the hatred on, and who are they trying to turn into the purse puppy Mary Sue's? Who is overrepresented and who is underrepresented as antagonists, and who's missing entirely? The short version of this is blonde-haired, blue-eyed man bad, as a massive overrepresentation, even when you take per cap into account by decade. Or if it's black and white, then you know who's being represented as whom. Then you chart the other groups per cap. all the other various groups that would have been around that movie's setting at the time, chart them per cap. As antagonists, when examining them, you're going to see a massive underrepresentation, or they'll be missing entirely. And I was going to name these various groups, but for the sake of the algorithm, I won't. You can just kind of use your imagination of that. So when Hollywood makes the antagonists non-European, then you might have a point. You might be making some real high art cinema, but it's almost never the case. Scorsese is just pretty much lying to himself. He's drinking his own Kool-Aid if he thinks he's somehow outside the matrix. He wants his version of stupid globalist propaganda, not Marvel or DC's version, which it's like Marvel and DC's, I think, is a little bit more honest. Like, you're seeing garbage. It just has to be garbage that's worth the ticket price. And most of the stuff they come out with, from Wonder Woman 84 to Ant-Man to Blue Beetle to the Eternals to a bunch of these other Black Widow, Shang-Chi. I mean, it seems like there's a bunch of these kind of superhero genre movies that have either barely broke even or took too long to break even, like Little Mermaid, or have actually lost money, which for Marvel, so you own the right to these comic book things, you should be printing money. Why aren't you? Well, I mean, how many times do I got to talk about the stupidity that was Wonder Woman 84? Anyway, so it's like you're out of your freaking mind. He's out of his mind, and then Marvel is like Disney. You look at them and like, you guys should be hand over fist making money with these movies. Why aren't you? Same for DC and Warner Brothers. Anyway, so he's doing an interview talking about his latest film, The Flower or something. Now keep in mind, I haven't seen it. And just based on probability of past films, I can predict the future behavior of the films. The odds are it's going to have an overrepresentation of a negative portrayal of European characters. How could you possibly know that? I don't know anything about the film other than the title. That's just an extrapolation. Maybe I'm wrong and Flower Moon is about the brutality of the Japanese people during the war, or the true story of the evil of the Dahomey tribe. He decided to go back and remake The Woman King and actually tell the story of the Dahomey tribe in the French and the English. Weird how they literally made that movie. How did that work out for that Finn character? He's like, I don't want to do Disney movies. I'm gonna go off and do real movies, and he makes The Woman King, where the English and the French want to perpetuate the trade in human services, and the Dahomey tribe wants to stop it. Opens up a history book. You're like, but that's the opposite of what happened. Why are you doing this? It's fiction, but it's based on the Dahomey tribe and the English and the French. Those are real things. Yeah, we're just going to make it anyway to make the French and the English bad. Because if we did the real movie, the Dahomey tribe, nobody would fund it. Oh, that's interesting. Or, why don't you do a movie on the savage expansion of some belief systems across the Byzantine 1,000 plus years ago. Scorsese really thinks his highbrow, are you crazy? Highbrow blonde man bad movies are stunning and brave because he's making them, and the film work, the camera work is really good, and the settings and the acting is good. It's still propaganda, even if it's made by skilled actors. And that Marvel's low-brow blonde man bad movies are silly, fair enough, but you're both trapped in the Matrix. Dear Scorsese, make a movie. Let me show the comments. Make a movie about the Arab trade in human services unpaid, and what they did to the Europeans, or what they did to the sub-Saharan Africans, because they traded both of those groups of people. Make a movie about the start of Bolshevism in Russia and the atrocities that they committed. Hey, do a history on the original founders of those ideologies, or what happened in Nanking, or the brutalities of Fidel's Cuba, or Papa Doc, or any of the African dictators, or why don't you make a movie about that island where politicians and famous Hollywood producers would go, like, that because the people making that movie would probably magically disappear. Where's that? That movie is a bridge too far. So he's just upset that his propaganda doesn't sell, but Marvel's propaganda, well, I mean, it used to sell pretty well, but honestly, you look at Marvel and DC now, you're like, you guys have had a lot of movies that have lost money. You can't continue to lose other people's money forever. Eventually, people are going to look at investing in these movies. Even Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock are going to look at these things and go like, yeah, I don't know if we can keep subsidizing the superhero genre when they're losing, $50 million per movie. So the challenge for Hollywood to make a blonde man good movie and a non-white bad movie. Can you do that? Like, again, are you out of your freaking mind? Doesn't it seem weird that none of those movies get made, or it's like it's just so rare when a non-globalist movie gets made in Hollywood? Lord of the Rings was 20 years ago. Maybe the original Star Wars 50 years ago was a good example of a simple classic story done really well. But he's, probably doesn't consider those to be cinema either. But at least those are honest stories. A hero's journey, tribalism, organic lore. Those are nationalist stories. And those movies don't get made in Hollywood too often, which is weird because they do really well. They connect with an audience and they're financially successful. And yet they don't get made. That doesn't make sense if Hollywood was just a straightforward business. It's like, oh, yeah. Kind of feels like there's something else going on beneath the surface of Hollywood. I have the feeling that the movies he considers to be high art cinema are about BLT cowboys or some artistic way in which a blonde man is portrayed as evil. That's not movies. That's just propaganda. Hollywood will pretty much allow you to make whatever movie you want, as with caveat, as long as the bad people have green or blue eyes and fair skin and light eyes, even to the point that you have to dye the character's hair blonde so you know that you hate the blonde people. They wouldn't do that. That's just ridiculous. You're just grinding your axe. Wonder Woman 84, they did that. I think the actors from South America somewhere. He's got dark hair, dark eyes. He's a mix of whatever. So they dyed his hair blonde. Oh yeah, it's kind of weird. In that movie, there was a blonde guy in a suit and tie and an overcoat who's outside a building with a bottle and a paper bag, and he's the guy who sexually harasses the woman, and the POC guy who's homeless and systemically disadvantaged and oppressed and disenfranchised, who's sleeping on the park bench, has to come rescue the woman from the I guess wealthy blonde alcoholic. The motivation is a little bit confusing there because he's not the blonde man who's harassing her and attempts to attack her and struggle her, because that's what happens in cities. He's drinking out of a paper bottle, so I guess he's alcoholic, but he's not homeless because he's in a suit and tie, so he must have come from work, but he's not at home, or he's not outside a bar or in a bar or a restaurant, which he could afford to be. He's just standing outside a building with a paper bag. In a real city, he would get mugged almost instantly, but in Hollywood, he's the bad guy and the POC has to come save her. Once you see stuff like that and you start pointing it out to people, at first they just think, oh, just let it go. It's just one little thing. You go, yeah, but it comes up all the time. And you see it. It's like it starts to make you feel sick to see when they take the mask off Hollywood and you see it. It's all this. It's like, okay, but why don't you just reverse it? You have reverse that scene with the characters, the POC guy on the park bench and the blonde guy. Why don't you just reverse it? And the white guy, the blonde guy, has to come save her from the POC. Would that movie get made? Of course not. Well, why not? Because Hollywood's not a business. It's a propaganda machine. It's this huge... The stuff, like when you put on the glasses and you start to look at Hollywood, it's sick. It's just sick, and it's been sick it's been sick for over 50 years, 60 years. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.